Part 54. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 546. Unable to withstand the constant friction, Lu Yuang walked out of the room. But she still had to put a mask on her face. The mask was applied neatly. I must have applied it carefully and evenly in front of the mirror. Whether it was applying extremely thin cucumber slices to the face or applying the mask, Lu Yuang was experienced and very skilled. I'll put on a facial mask first. Lu Yuang walked out of the bathroom, ignoring the others, and walked to the bedroom. That way she could close the door again. And Nuan looked at Lu Yuang's eyes. They said that eyes are the windows to the soul. In fact, to be precise, eyes can best embellish a person's temperament. No matter how elegant and quiet the temperament is, if it is a lifeless fisheye, then it is elegant and demure. The world is focused on you and you no longer have that temperament. Lu Yuang's eyes cannot be said to be prettier now than before, but they give the impression of more youthful agility rather than mature elegance. And Nuan took advantage of Lu Yuang walking past her, reached out and pulled off the mask. Lu Yuang exclaimed, then turned to glare at Nuan. The two twins finally met their eyes. At. And Nuan was shocked and took several steps back. He immediately opened his hands and blocked Lu Chang'an behind him like he was playing a game of eagle and chicken. As if she didn't feel very safe, and Nuan turned around and squeezed into Lu Chang'an's arms. She turned her head and glanced at Lu Yuang, lowered her head, and looked at Lu Yuang again without saying a word. What do you mean? Lu Yuang was immediately embarrassed and angrily wanted to reach out and grab Nuan's ears and pull her out of Lu Chang'an's arms. I don't mean anything, and Nuan just reacted instinctively. Seeing Lu Yuang's angry look, she let go of Lu Chang'an. Sooner or later I will be pissed off by you. Lu Yuang didn't want to dwell on Nuan's reaction just now, lest others notice what Nuan meant. And Nuan looked back at Lu Chang'an and found that he was also looking at Lu Yuang, but feeling her gaze, he lowered his head and looked at her with a smile in his eyes. And Nuan was determined and didn't think her caution was wrong, but Lu Chang'an's eyes reassured her. He still looked at her with the same eyes as before, which was different from looking at Lu Yuang. It seems that at least on the surface, Lu Chang'an can clearly distinguish between the lovely Nuan and Professor Lu, who is disguised as a young and beautiful girl, and does not have confusing wrong emotions. So Nuan walked over with confidence and faced Lu Yuang again. Lu Yuang had already walked out of the bathroom and no longer wanted to hide. Instead, he relaxed and took a ginseng fruit from the welcome fruit and ate it without expression. While eating, he looked at Nuan and looked at her. It's really exactly the same, Professor Ling exclaimed. His daughter didn't look the same as when he was young, but that's fine. Professor Ling felt that Hans Hizzy was more beautiful and had a better figure than when he was young. The difference is huge. You think she looks like a fool, Lu Yuang said disapprovingly. She is indeed my real mother. The fake mother must be pretending to be very enthusiastic. Only my real mother dislikes me like this. The familiar feeling, the familiar tone, the familiar dislike made Nuan a little relieved. Her mother changed, it's just her appearance, but she's still her own mother on the inside. She hasn't become a stranger. That's good. And Nuan chuckled and rushed over to hug Lu Yuang. Why are you here to hug me? You shameless girl. Lu Yuang still looked disgusted, but the corners of his mouth had turned up, and he quickly opened his mouth and took a bite of fruit to hide his smile. I'm going to call you sister from now on. And Nuan took Lu Yuang's hand and walked to the bedroom. We sisters should talk about ourselves. Nothing big or small. Lu Yuang wanted to know what Nuan wanted to say to her in private, so he let Nuan pull her in. And Nuan walked around, pulled the doors on both sides closer, and closed them. What do you want to tell me? Lu Yuang put the uneaten ginseng fruit on the paper towel. It was not a delicious fruit, it was just moisturizing. Mom, you won't always be like this, right? And Nuan asked worriedly. Didn't Lu Chang'an just tell you that he will recover after a while? Lu Yuang was not worried about this and felt that An Nuan's worries were unfounded. The point is, you believe him when he says it. Why do you trust him so much? An Nuan was a little dissatisfied with this hidden fact. After all, she was a woman with keen observation. Why are your focus always so strange? Lu Yuang knew that An Nuan was about to start, and he immediately became angry. An Nuan showed an obvious expression and pointed outside. Isn't it obvious? If I become an old woman, even if someone tells me, I mean people who are not in a very close relationship with me. It doesn't matter, it's a trivial matter, you won't just pounce on guy like this. Can I believe it? At most, it's a little bit of comfort. How can you just ignore it and not take it seriously, and still feel at ease? An Nuan pointed at the ginseng fruit that Lu Yuang had put down. Can you still eat the fruit with peace of mind? I'm afraid it will be difficult to breathe, unable to eat, and unable to sleep peacefully. I trust Lu Chang'an. What's the problem? Lu Yuang came over and poked An Nuan's head with his finger. He is reliable, capable, and has all the skills. This has nothing to do with intimacy or not. You are my daughter, are we close, right? But if this happens, I will contact you immediately. In Lu Chang'an's words, is it useful? Even if you comfort me, can I relax? An Nuan was poked several times by Lu Yuang's fingers and became a little unsteady. Wearing a fluffy coat, she felt like she was swaying like a penguin and about to fall. She quickly raised her palms to maintain balance and leaned on lived and stood by the bed. But what Professor Lu said made sense, and An Nuan wasn't someone who couldn't listen. She suddenly felt that a very serious problem was not so serious. That's good, I also trust Lu Chang'an, but it's different from you, because he is my boyfriend, and I believe what he says. And Nuan emphasized the difference. If you always act like this, I feel it's good, but I feel worried. What's so good? What are you worried about? Lu Yuang looked at An Nuan calmly. This was a dog's mouth that couldn't spit out ivory. The good thing is, of course this kind of thing is good. You are getting younger, and I have a mother who is like a sister, which is quite fun. But, I am worried that Lu Chang'an will easily confuse us. And Nuan pulled Lu Yuang to the big mirror and looked at the two faces in the mirror that were basically the same. How can it be confused? He's not dead and can't speak, Lu Yuang said angrily. What if we take a nap in the same bed and he wants to kiss me? Lu Yuang didn't want to pay attention to An Nuan. This damn girl thought about these inexplicable and ridiculous things all day long. What if you wake up in the morning and you're making breakfast in the kitchen, and he walks in, thinks it's me, and wants to hug me from behind? What if we play a silly game and look at him with the same cute expression while wearing the same clothes and he really can't tell the difference? And Nuan felt a little painful imagining these uncomfortable scenes. I feel that as long as there is a trace of confusion or a trace of hesitation in his eyes when he is making a distinction, I will be heartbroken and unable to breathe. Lu Yuang raised her hand and gave An Nuan a slap in the face, saying angrily, I'll find Lao Ling when I get back and borrow her bicycle chain. She still has it, and Nuan was surprised. Zhi and I stole 3 pieces from her before. Fortunately, I will recover, otherwise I really have to stay away from you, lest your boyfriend can't tell the difference and you can't breathe and suffocate yourself to death. Lu Yuang felt angrily and felt a headache. Other people's daughters, really? The little cotton padded jacket is a hot water bottle, but what about your own? His name is Nuan Bao Bao, but he is actually a silly baby. And Nuan hesitated for a moment, but still felt that he wanted to test it. What are you thinking about? Lu Yuang looked at An Nuan's eyes moving around restlessly, feeling a little suspicious. Let's take off our coats, put on our nightgowns, wrap our hair with a towel, and don't say anything. Let's see if he can tell the difference clearly. And Nuan still wanted to play for a while. In fact, if he really couldn't tell the difference, An Nuan wouldn't be able to tell the difference. As for being unable to breathe, I would be glad that it was only temporary. If it were permanent, it would be really troublesome. After all, when she looked at her mother, she would feel a little dazed, as if her soul had left her body and appeared on the other side. No, Lu Yuwang's tone was not very firm. After all, this was also a very rare experience. Women have a natural love for teasing those of the opposite sex with whom they have a close relationship. This kind of intimate relationship does not necessarily refer to the relationship between men and women. Just like many daughters, they also like to tease their fathers, or their sisters tease their brothers. Try it, and Nuan hugged Lu Yuwang's arm, and she felt Lu Yuwang's movement. Lu Yuwang was still reserved, habitually waiting for Nuan to talk to her. As a mother, she still had the opportunity to be as youthful as a woman in appearance, making it difficult for people to tell them apart. This was also an extremely satisfying mood. Ah! I'm sure Entling can't tell the difference, and Nuan had already gone to get her nightgown. Then don't roll around on the ground then, Lu Yuwang said hesitantly. If you can't tell the difference, it's also Lu Chang'an's fault. You can act coquettishly and get angry at him, but don't come to trouble me. I haven't rolled on the ground since I was 15 years old, and Nuan pouted. You always treat me like a child. Now I am a 360-degree cute and beautiful girl. Don't always be in front of Lu Chang'an. Mention the embarrassing things that happened when I was a kid. It was your Entling just now, I didn't say it. Lu Yuwang laughed, and she also listened in the bathroom. Lu Yuwang raised his hand as Nuan helped her take off her clothes, and took off her coat. The two of them put on their nightgowns, wrapped their hair tightly, and then wrote on the paper, "Silly, I can't tell the difference." I took the words clearly in my hand, discussed the precautions, and then walked out. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 547. The caveat, of course, is that apart from their faces, the difference in body shape between the two people will be directly discovered by Lu Chang'an, and then the game of can't tell the difference will be over as soon as it begins. It turned out that Lu Yuwang's body had changed because of taking facial cream, and Nuan discovered that she had grown taller. Lu Chang'an explained at that time that she had just regained her height as a girl. So this time Lu Yuwang's height has not changed much compared to that time, and is still a little shorter than Nuan. As for the figure, anyone who has watched some scenes in movies and TV series knows that a woman wearing a hotel nightgown does not show off her figure. In those scenes, the woman walks to the bed and takes off the nightgown, and then leaves a silhouette of her back to the audience. There is no need to film the scene, everything is self-explanatory. What's more, Lu Yuwang's figure as a girl was not much plumper than Nuan's. Her figure was mainly more mature and feminine after giving birth to Nuan. Lu Chang'an was talking to Professor Ling when he saw two women in nightgowns with their heads wrapped, bending down and walking out. Then they quickly rushed to sit on the sofa, hugging each other diagonally, with their feet raised and placed on the sofa. Don't let people compare. What are you doing? Professor Ling was startled, and then he saw one of them holding a sign that read, "Silly, I can't tell the difference." They want us to tell who is who, Lu Chang'an said to Professor Ling with a smile. Professor Ling suddenly realized and felt a little envious. It would be great if he could play such a game with Hans Hizzy. But I guess I don't have such a funny and humorous son-in-law to match the women's playful thoughts. Professor Ling, can you tell the difference clearly? Lu Chang'an asked Professor Ling to come first. Professor Ling looked around, but did not get closer to observe carefully. He frowned slightly, and then laughed. It turns out that when I was alone with Lao Lu, I felt that there were some differences between her and Nuan, and I felt that I could definitely tell them apart. But now, I really can't see it. After saying that, Professor Ling opened his mouth somewhat exaggeratedly, pointed at the two of them and said to Lu Chang'an, "I don't believe it, you can tell them apart. After all, both of them have the same lively eyes, their beautiful eyes are shining as they look around, and even the corners of their mouth slightly pursed to avoid laughing are equally cute." I can't tell the difference either. Lu Chang'an smiled and looked at the two of them. En Nuan and Lu Yuwang did not show different expressions, because En Nuan said that before Lu Chang'an made the actual decision, he should not react to anything he said. After all, En Nuan and Lu Chang'an have been classmates for many years, especially after sitting at the same table, a battle of wits and courage is common. Although she was basically one of his defeated enemies, she also had some experience and coping skills. Take a closer look. Professor Ling thought it was fun and encouraged Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an's eyes moved back and forth on their faces. They all avoided Lu Chang'an's eyes and turned their heads to look at the air indifferently. Anyway, no trace of expression was revealed. After all, women are born actors. I really can't tell the difference, Lu Chang'an said, very embarrassed. Go over and take a look. You and Nuan are boyfriend and girlfriend. Can't you recognize it? I don't believe it. Professor Ling continued to provoke Lu Chang'an. Best friends like to do things together. If Lu Yuwang and Professor Ling have a different personality, the tempers are not compatible, and we can't play together. How can we have such a good relationship? Okay. Lu Chang'an reluctantly walked over and said to the two beautiful girls in front of him, you have to let me play. I admitted my mistake, but don't blame me. They still had no expression. Lu Chang'an lowered his head and smelled the aroma. He was really well prepared and even sprayed the same perfume. Lu Chang'an approached the one on the left, getting closer and closer, and said suspiciously, I feel like this might be. He didn't finish speaking, but he saw that both of their cheeks were a little tense, and they no longer had as many pretentious expressions as before. Lu Chang'an got closer and closer, his breath hitting his face, and he said, whoever I kiss will be my girlfriend. En Nuan and Lu Yuwang were both surprised. How could you play like this? What if you kissed the wrong person? En Nuan involuntarily grasped Lu Yuwang's hand, feeling like crying without tears in her heart. Why didn't she think that every time she tried to tease Lu Chang'an in the past, he would kill her in the end? Lu Chang'an turned his head and quickly kissed En Nuan on the right's face. En Nuan's tight cheeks relaxed, and she jumped up immediately. She was so happy after being nervous. You kissed the wrong one, you kissed the wrong one. He's going to kiss the wrong guy. I'll beat him up, Lu Yuwang said expressionlessly. It was really boring and not fun at all. Lu Chang'an must have seen through it at a glance and just teased the two of them without any suspense. En Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an, her eyes sparkling. After all, her confidence in Lu Chang'an was confirmed. Sure enough, two people who fall in love together are in sync with each other. En Nuan was suspicious of Lu Chang'an and looked at Lu Yuwang proudly. What's the use of looking like him? Lu Chang'an will never admit his mistake. Lu Yuwang glared at En Nuan. This girl was really just trying to show off to Lu Yuwang that Lu Chang'an liked her the most. Lu Chang'an is as annoying as En Nuan. What a match. Just now, he deliberately pretended to come in front of her, making Lu Yuwang extremely nervous, fearing that if he really kissed her, she would have to give En Nuan a good beating. Lu Chang'an, how did you recognize it? Professor Ling asked curiously. She was not pretending, she was really unsure. After looking at it at that time, she doubted this and that, made a choice, and then rejected it. It felt like it's just pure blindness. Lu Yuwang also looked at Lu Chang'an. How could he tell the difference between two people who looked so similar? Could it be that he remembered some extremely subtle features on En Nuan's face or somewhere? When En Nuan is nervous, her ears will move involuntarily, like a little rabbit. She deliberately didn't cover her ears. I think this is a flaw she exposed to me, Lu Chang'an laughed. In fact, there is no need for such a flaw. He could also tell the difference with his unusual sense, but since she had such a little thought, how could he not discover it? No. You observed carefully yourself. How did I know that you discovered it secretly? En Nuan was proud and sweet. You stinky girl, you thought you could tease Lu Chang'an, so I agreed, but you just let it go. Are you teasing me about your feelings? Lu Yuang was very angry. He stretched out his hand and pulled in Nuan's rabbit-like ears. She was pulled out of Lu Chang'an's arms. And Nuan cried out in pain and struggled at the same time. Who told you to have bad intentions and want to bully Lu Chang'an? Oh, this is called not having the intention to harm others. Harming others will eventually harm yourself. Oh, Mom, I was wrong. Lu Yuang let go of Nuan's ears angrily and walked to the bedroom angrily, ready to change clothes. This kind of game was so childish. If the girl hadn't kept encouraging him, who would be interested in playing with them? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 548. Lu Yuang and Nuan changed clothes. During the process of changing clothes, Nuan confirmed again that Professor Liu's lateral altitude advantage was not great now, which made Nuan feel relieved. After all, Professor Liu was Nuan's target before, but now his target is only on par with his own. This is really an inspiring thing. Unfortunately, it was only temporary. Nuan still had to work hard. She originally planned to study hard with Lu Chang'an today and try to improve herself. It seems that Professor Liu has no way to change back to his original appearance tomorrow, so Nuan decides to stay with her every day. This is out of concern for her mother, and has no other meaning. When it came to eating, Nuan and Lu Yuang would be a bit too conspicuous if they appeared in public at the same time, so they took the room service menu and ordered a few dishes. Reservations are also required for the hotel's restaurants, but there is no need to wait for the in-room dining service. If you are not pursuing a sense of ceremony and simply want to taste the craftsmanship of the restaurant chef, dining in the guest room is not a bad idea. What's more, the view from the guest room is no worse than that from the restaurant, making it more private and quiet. After dinner, Lu Chang'an did not stay in their room all the time. He chatted for a while and talked about the next training plan. He saw the expectations on the faces of Lu Yuang and Professor Ling, and they were full of excitement for the next recovery training. Positive and hard-working, Lu Chang'an left very pleased. He did not go back directly, but went to the supermarket downstairs. I just dined at the hotel. The food was very exquisite, with delicate taste and beautiful presentation, but it was not strong enough. It doesn't feel as hearty as it tastes. Lu Chang'an came to the supermarket and saw a 50% discount on some fresh meat that was going to be sold that day. Lu Chang'an saw 2 pairs of pig intestines and flipped them over with tongs. They were still clean and retained a hint of the unique odor of pig intestines. If the pig intestines are cleaned and have no smell at all, just like pure fat and sebum, then chewing them will not be that interesting. The pig intestines have such a unique smell, which is made with ginger, garlic, chili, and sauerkraut. You can't mask the taste, but these condiments will make it even more delicious. Lu Chang'an went back with 2 pairs of pig intestines. There is a dish called gourd head in Xi'an, which is also very famous. Jiao Pingwei also likes to eat it. No matter what the origin of the guests, he likes to treat others to eat gourd head, but when he introduced it, he said, "Gourd head is pig hemorrhoids." This made many people in Xi'an very dissatisfied, thinking that he ruined a Xi'an delicacy. After all, when others heard that it was pig hemorrhoids, many people were unwilling to eat it, which affected the spread of local food culture. Food culture is a very important cultural business card for any city, especially now. A delicacy, a world-famous delicacy, can bring much tourism economy and enhance the cultural image and charm of the entire city. For example, I won't give any examples. Chinese people don't need others to give such examples. In fact, the gourd head cannot be said to be pig hemorrhoids. It should be said to be the place where hemorrhoids grow, the rectum. If you really have hemorrhoids in your rectum, they will have to be removed. You don't need to do this when cooking. The pig intestines in this section of the rectum are plump, fatty, and chewy, and are very suitable for various cooking methods. In the past, pig small intestines were used for braised cooking, but now many people ignore these differences and use both large intestines and small intestines. Lu Chang'an returned to the community. On this cold winter day, old men and women would no longer set up a table under the grapevines to play cards. The business of the mahjong parlor has been booming a lot, but in Anxie's grocery store, a table was set up with a small sun placed under the table. Several people gathered around to play cards. Anxie pumped water and provided services such as pouring boiling water. Shang Guandandan fell in love with this place and brought her thermos bottle to boil the water to soak her effervescent tablets every day. This way she doesn't always have to boil water herself. She was a little worried that the briquettes would be used up too quickly. She had to save these briquettes for the winter and then ask Lu Chang'an to buy a car of briquettes. Sometimes she would go upstairs to Zhou Dongdong's house to pour boiling water, if Lu Chang'an didn't boil the water. The Queen Mother tried her best to live frugally and appear shrewd. She is a person who lives her life. I hope Lu Chang'an can understand this. Lu Chang'an passed by the canteen. Shang Guandandan saw that Lu Chang'an seemed to be holding something in his hand. Just in time to finish counting the money, she ran out with the thermos bottle and followed Lu Chang'an. Stop fighting so early, Lu Chang'an looked back at Shang Guandandan, who seemed to be following every step because he couldn't take too big a step. You seem to have bought groceries. If you need to cook, I can help you. Shang Guandandan looked very positive. Seeing that Lu Chang'an was walking too fast, Shang Guandandan held the thermos bottle with both hands, but couldn't hold his fingers, so he ran and jumped to keep up. Okay. Lu Chang'an originally wanted to say, "Will you help me with the work?" He also wanted to express other emotions or tease him, but in the end, he saved thousands of words and turned them into 2 words condensed in silence, okay. Everything is in these 2 words. Lu Chang'an returned home and took a look at the TV wall. Sure enough, it was empty. Shang Guandandan finished watching the TV and moved the TV back. Lu Chang'an thought about the big TV that she could lie on and use it as a bed. Thinking about her intention to protect her beloved TV, she didn't bother to say anything. Lu Chang'an looked at the time and saw that Zhou Dongdong had not come back yet. She should have gone to play with Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang would send her to Zhou Shuling. Later, Zhou Shuling would come back with Zhou Dongdong, and by then his food would be gone. It is done. Lu Chang'an came to the kitchen and opened the plastic bag. 2 pairs of large intestines were packed with food wrapping paper and wrapped in plastic bags. Originally there was no smell at all. After they were opened and poured into the basin, the unique smell of pig intestines filled the kitchen. Shang Guandandan hurriedly ran out of the kitchen, stood watching from a distance, and shouted in panic, "Do you want to eat dada?" The word papa is generally only used by children, and Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong learned it. Lu Chang'an didn't answer her. Of course he wouldn't eat. Do you still need to ask? Questions that don't need to be asked don't need to be answered. Shang Guandandan stood in the living room watching Lu Chang'an clean the pig intestines, and then slowly came closer. She was a little unhappy. She originally wanted to help him with his work. For example, she could help him turn on the faucet and then look at the water meter. Tell him how much water was used and so on. But Lu Chang'an released such a strong smell that prevented Shang Guandandan from helping with housework. After Lu Chang'an had cleaned the pig intestines and removed excess grease, the smell in the kitchen had dissipated. Shang Guandandan also approached the door. She had already placed the thermos on the table, her hands empty. "Yes, you can come to work." Shang Guandandan walked in, looked at the pig intestines on the chopping board, and picked up the kitchen knife. She couldn't cut that greasy thing that looked disgusting, but she could help him cut the peppers. Just lifting the kitchen knife, she felt like the kitchen knife was much heavier than Zhou Dongdong's toy kitchen knife, and much heavier than ordinary kitchen knives, so Shang Guandandan gave up. "Stand here and don't move," Lu Chang'an pointed to the door. Shang Guandandan was simply an incompetent version of Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong really knew how to work. Even if he didn't do well, he could really try his best. That is, occasionally knocking over a pot or bowl, pouring dishwashing liquid on the floor, etc. Shang Guandandan has no ability to ruin the job. Shang Guandandan reads a lot of online novels, but Zhu Ziqing doesn't, and suffers the disadvantage of being uneducated. "What are you going to cook?" Shang Guandandan was still a little curious. Zhou Dongdong said that many delicious things don't look delicious, but they taste delicious when they are made into dishes, so everything is delicious. "Have to eat?" Caotou circle. Eating grass. Caotou circle is a famous Chinese dish, and grass head is alfalfa. Generally speaking, circle refers to pig intestines. In fact, it is just to not affect people's appetite. In fact, circle is pig anus. Because pig intestines are not thick enough. It shrinks a lot and looks sloppy after braised. Only the pig anus, which is the rectum, is suitable for this dish. When it's done, it will be crispy in the mouth, with a fragrant grass head and a very harmonious taste. Pig, pig's anus is where pigs poop, right? Shang Guandandan took 2 steps back and looked at Lu Chang'an warily. Yes. Shang Guandandan ran to the door, then ran back and took away his hot water bottle. In the evening, when Lu Chang'an cooked 3 dishes and had supper with Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong, Shang Guandandan didn't even come. She definitely didn't want to eat pig pudding cakes. After Lu Chang'an and the other 3 finished their supper, Shang Guandandan came upstairs because Zhou Shuling bought a new TV. The TV was placed in Lu Chang'an's living room. Zhou Shuling also noticed that Shang Guandandan occupied Lu Chang'an's TV. Zhou Shuling didn't try to persuade Shang Guandandan that since it was inconvenient to watch TV downstairs, she might as well put it upstairs. It turned out that when Lu Chang'an gave her the TV, Zhou Shuling also said that when she had it in hand, she would buy a new TV for Lu Chang'an. Zhou Shuling would always see Shang Guandandan moving the TV every day, so Zhou Shuling recalled this matter and decided to do it today and buy a TV. This style is a little newer than the one Qinyan bought last time. It has some more functions. Even the remote control is different. It looks like a mobile phone. The remote control functions are displayed on the touch screen and is equipped with a wireless charging remote control base. No need to worry about the inconvenience of running out of power. Lu Chang'an was reading on the sofa while holding Zhou Dongdong in his arms. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Shang Guandandan touching his new TV. Seeing Li Xin looked happy, he didn't say anything. She already had a TV. Is it possible that she has the nerve to move his TV set too? Is this TV a little better than the one I have? Shang Guandandan finished touching the TV, washed his hands, walked to Lu Chang'an, and asked with some uncertainty. No, Lu Chang'an firmly denied. It's better. I found out, Shang Guandandan said angrily. Did he think she wanted his new TV? Even if she wanted it, she didn't show it. She didn't show any interest in his new TV at all. Don't sleep. Lu Chang'an first pushed Zhou Dongdong, who was about to close his eyes and sleep after hearing him read half a page, and then said to Shang Guandandan, it will get better if it gets better, but you already have it's a TV. I have too. Shang Guandandan is a nostalgic person. She used to use that bulging little TV. She is not the kind of person who likes the new and hates the old. Seeing that Lu Chang'an had no intention of exchanging TV sets with her, Shang Guandandan was not unhappy. He just sat on the other end of the sofa holding his own thermos bottle and kept looking at him. It's impossible to achieve your goal with your eyes. Lu Chang'an continued to read. The child he was holding fell asleep as soon as he listened to the text. I don't know how she spent her days at school. When Zhou Shuling came down, she found Zhou Dongdong sitting dazed and swaying next to Lu Chang'an. She couldn't help but sigh. She used to think that Lu Chang'an didn't study hard and read messy books every day. How many points did he score in the college entrance examination? It would be nice if Zhou Dongdong looked a little like Lu Chang'an. It's a pity that this child completely follows his mother. No, Zhou Shuling thought for a while, her grades in elementary school may indeed be good, if she remembers correctly. Zhou Shuling came down with 2 sweaters. One was given to Lu Chang'an and one to Shang Guandandan. When Zhou Dongdong heard that brother Chang'an had stopped studying, he looked at the sweater and became more energetic. He got under the sweater in brother Chang'an's hand and put the big sweater on himself. He suddenly felt like an adult. Dongdong mother, you are so good. You are on par with Miss Jean, far better than the others. Shang Guandandan put down the thermos bottle and hugged the sweater. It was warm. She had seen Zhou Shuling. I knitted sweaters, but I didn't think I had one. Lu Chang'an did not want to refute or comment on Shang Guandandan's words. Try it. Zhou Shuling looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly. Lu Chang'an took off his coat and shirt, and took off the sweater from Zhou Dongdong's head. Zhou Shuling turned her head with a slight expression of enthusiasm, but felt that she just regarded Lu Chang'an as a relative like a younger brother, so she turned her head again and watched him put on a sweater. The workmanship is good, but it feels a bit tight. Lu Chang'an looked up and down. Zhou Shuling came over and wiped it for him, pulled the hem, and couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Why, I compared it with your clothes. The size should be right. It seems that I saved my needle and thread. Didn't you knit it yourself? Lu Chang'an asked. Zhou Shuling shook her head and said, let me knit you another one. My hands and feet are faster now. Then I'll give you this one. Lu Chang'an took off his clothes. Then it will be too big for me, Zhou Shuling said with some regret. It won't be big tomorrow. Why? You'll know tomorrow. Lu Chang'an waved his hand casually. Go up and bring me the knitting needle. Zhou Dongdong actively went upstairs and took down the knitting needle. Zhou Shuling was a little confused. What was he going to do? Could he still change his sweater? How is that possible? As a grown man, Lu Chang'an is not the kind of person who is interested in the things that women like to do. She had seen Lu Chang'an designing clothes and cutting fabrics, but that was somewhat different from knitting sweaters. After all, many tailors were men, but there were far fewer men knitting sweaters. The most important thing is that he said that he would know tomorrow, so it would not be possible to change the sweater. One night would not be enough. The next morning, Zhou Shuling asked Zhou Dongdong to stay at home. She came down with milk. She didn't know what she was expecting, but when she saw the red sweater on the sofa, she looked around. But he couldn't help but tiptoed over and picked it up. As expected, the sweater has been made smaller, with the waist, shoulders and other areas gathered in. The arms have been removed, and the removed wool is probably used to weave exquisite and complicated flowers into the clothes. One night passed, Lu Chang'an was wearing a sweater that was too small, and Zhou Shuling was wearing a wool skirt that just fit. After a few gestures, it felt just right. Zhou Shuling was so happy. Take it back and knit something suitable for me. Lu Chang'an walked out of the kitchen, looked at Zhou Shuling and smiled. Don't feel that your skills are not good, don't compare with me, everyone has to feel inferior. I don't want to compete with you. Zhou Shuling took the sweater and was so happy that she went upstairs to show off to Zhou Dongdong. Lu Chang'an started making breakfast this morning. He made rice noodles and then called Shang Guandandan to come up for breakfast. There are meat buns to eat today. Shang Guandandan looked forward to it casually, but he didn't object to the rice noodles prepared by Lu Chang'an. The thinly sliced and chewy meat inside was quite delicious. This fat rice roll is not bad either. Zhou Shuling, who was wearing a red sweater skirt, wanted to invent a new dish again. It's delicious. I want to give Lu Sin some. Zhou Dongdong went to feed the dog after eating. Fat intestines, Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an warily. It's the pig intestines from yesterday, Lu Chang'an explained kindly. I was worried that you thought it wouldn't look good, so I cut it into tiny pieces so that you couldn't see it. Shang Guandandan took a few steps back in fear and pressed her hand against the TV in front of the wall before stopping. She took a look at the new TV and ran downstairs. Just when Zhou Shuling was blaming Lu Chang'an, Shang Guandandan moved the TV downstairs up, and then went to pull the various cables on the new TV. What are you doing? Lu Chang'an was surprised. Why is this man like this? She must be taking advantage of the topic. Shang Guandandan went downstairs with the new TV in his arms. Who asked him to frame her? He was a heartless and stinky emperor before, tricking her into eating things she shouldn't eat, and now he's like this again. If he didn't move his new TV, Shang Guandandan felt that he would be autistic. Because he didn't want to be autistic, he had to do this so that he wouldn't have to feel ashamed for framing the Queen Mother. Big chapter, please give me some monthly tickets and chicken drumsticks. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 550. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Shuling were left in the living room, looking at each other. Zhou Shuling finished breakfast and stayed here for a while. She was going to go up and change clothes and then help Lu Chang'an clear the table and dishes. She didn't want her beloved new sweater and skirt to get dirty. Why is she so strong? This was not the first time Zhou Shuling saw Shang Guandandan move a TV. A little girl carrying a TV set up and downstairs is quite strange in the first place, but Zhou Shuling has become accustomed to it. There are many things that she sees that feel strange. If she can't understand them, she often doesn't think too much about them because she has the time. Thinking about random things, Zhou Shuling thought that someone with as much leisure as the third lady could do it. Zhou Shuling could do whatever she wanted when she had time, and she didn't have the time to think about other things. She's not very strong. She can't even lift the kettle in my kitchen. Lu Chang'an's tone was very calm. By the way, she can't even lift the kitchen knife. How could that happen? Zhou Shuling was confused. After all, Dong Dong's mother is just an ordinary little daughter-in-law. How can she have so many dramas and thoughts as the master of the harem? She can jump into a tree and sit, and she can run around holding a TV, but if she has to work, she has no strength at all. Lu Chang'an patted Zhou Shuling on the shoulder. Go and pack up and prepare. Go to work, it's cold today, don't wear a skirt. Zhou Shuling pulled the hem of her skirt, slightly shy. I want to wear a pretty new skirt, and I spend most of my time in the mall. It's just a short walk on the road, and it's not cold at all. It's up to you. She looks average, but she's quite beautiful on the inside. Lu Chang'an smiled. Zhou Shuling gave him a look, and went to clear the table without changing her skirt. If she was careful, she wouldn't get her skirt dirty. She was not a clumsy Zhou Dongdong. Lu Chang'an got up early today and went out early. He should go to train Professor Lu and Professor Ling. When she came downstairs, Zhou Dongdong was still feeding the dog, but she didn't know why. She took one bite and fed another to Lu Sin. A small bowl of fat sausage, one person and one dog, eating slowly, as if enjoying life. Brother Chang'an, I'll give it to you. Zhou Dongdong held a piece of fat intestine and stretched out his hand towards Lu Chang'an. Thank you. Lu Chang'an waved his hand, looking at Zhou Dongdong's oily little hands stained with ginger, garlic, and chili, with great disgust. Just like pig's trotters, the pig's trotters are also prepared with ginger, garlic, and chili, and are oily and smooth. If the pig's trotters are made, you can pick them up and gnaw them. Then you should walk carefully when going to school, don't look around, and look at the traffic lights when crossing the road. Go home early after school, Zhou Dongdong warned Lu Chang'an while stuffing the piece of fat intestine into his mouth. That's about you. Lu Chang'an reminded her not to always give advice to the wrong person. Oh, it turns out I was talking about myself. I thought the teacher asked me to go home and tell my mother, and you Zhou Dongdong suddenly understood. Lu Chang'an shook his head, feeling a little proud. Fortunately, this stupid child met the respectable, cute, gentle, and kind brother Chang'an, who exuded light like a bodhisattva and illuminated her life. Lu Chang'an walked to the door of Shang Guanduntun's room again, opened the door, and saw Shang Guanduntun lying on the bed, lazily spreading his legs. One leg was propped up, the other leg was hanging by the bed and swinging gently, and one hand was supporting his cheek. Holding a thermos flask in one hand. She has already installed the TV, and she has also learned how to use other people's Wi-Fi, and is watching TV. When Shang Guandandan saw Lu Chang'an, he quickly sat up straight with his cheeks slightly red. Just when Lu Chang'an wanted to comment on her lying posture, which looked like Zhou Dongdong, Shang Guandandan stood up and pushed Lu Chang'an out of the door, and whispered, "Come in again." Lu Chang'an stood outside the door confused, so he knocked on the door. After hearing Shangguan's voice, he opened the door and came in. This time Shang Guanduntun had changed his posture, sitting slantedly on the edge of the bed, holding a thermos bottle in his hands. His body was not very upright, but his shoulders were definitely not slumped, and he looked very elegant at first glance. Just like many veteran drama actors who specialize in playing emperors, no matter how the emperor sits in the play, even if the emperor is slanted, lazy or even decadent, his shoulders cannot be slumped, and he still has the aura of the emperor. This is different from those who the emperor played by Xiao Xianro has a completely different aura, which lies in the traditional etiquette requirements. Shoulders should not be slumped. "I've been sitting like this," Shang Guandandan reminded Lu Chang'an that the scene he saw when he walked in never happened and did not exist. "Then you continue to sit like this?" Lu Chang'an nodded, said nothing, and walked out again. He had nothing to do with her, he just wanted to take a look at the TV that he had not turned on to warm up. Lu Chang'an left the community and walked to the hotel. After the streets are sprinkled with water in winter, there is a feeling of dampness and coldness. The fog is heavy, oppressing the skyline of the entire city. The high-rise buildings of Bailong Center are faintly visible in it, which always reminds people of the strange things in the classic of mountains and seas. The beast appears with this kind of momentum. Lu Chang'an had never seen those creatures in myths and legends that could reverse yin and yang, master the laws of heaven and earth, and travel through time and space, so he could only pretend that they did not exist. It is not that strange beasts that are powerful enough to pounce on mountains and tower into the clouds have never existed. At this level, it is natural to leave legends about the haunting scenes captured by early humans. Lu Chang'an saw an element-devouring beast. The element-devouring beast is the orange cat. When an orange cat is held in Bai Fen's hand, many cats often lose their body balance and fall directly to the ground after being put on a leash, which requires some adaptation training and time. This orange cat was extremely fat. After taking a few steps, it struggled with Bai Fen. It lay motionless on the ground and had to be teased by Bai Fen with a small dried fish before it could barely walk a few steps. Lu Chang'an walked over and greeted Bai Hui in a friendly manner. If Lu Sin encounters such a cat, he will probably bite him to death. Lu Sin, oh, that's the dog Xiao Tang mentioned. Now it's a Rottweiler that can only howl. Bai Hui didn't expect to meet Lu Chang'an so early, and her face was filled with confusion. With an ordinary smile that one usually sees when seeing acquaintances, Rottweiler must be barking, woofing, woofing, right? That's not true, but it's quite cute when you imitate a dog barking, Lu Chang'an commented objectively. Bai Hui's cheeks were slightly red, and she couldn't understand for a moment. Was he praising her? Or scold her? This man always talks with a stick. If he wants to praise her for being cute, why can't he praise her directly? Despite this, there is still sunlight that penetrates through the mist and falls on Bai Anna's shy cheeks, just like the way a girl closes her eyes and touches the stamens with her nose when the flowers are blooming in spring. The orange cat walked a few steps, came to Lu Chang'an's feet, fell down as if on porcelain, then turned over on its belly, kicked Lu Chang'an's shoes with its forelegs, rubbed it, adjusted its lying posture, and stopped moving again. "This cat likes you." The corner of Bai Hui's mouth curled up slightly. He heard Zhu Huntang and Zhong Qing say that Lu Chang'an had no love for small animals. For him, the meaning of small animals' existence was to be eaten by him. Bai Hui still remembers that when he was in high school, he asked for leave on the grounds of killing and selling dogs. At the time, he thought it was unbelievable. How could this person use such an excuse to take leave? If his academic performance hadn't been good enough, Huang Shan would have scolded him to death. "I don't like cats." Lu Chang'an knelt down and touched the cat's belly. Bai Hui's heart suddenly trembled for no reason. Such a conversation, if the personal pronouns were changed, it would be as if the confession was rejected. Such thoughts made Bai Hui feel a little gloomy. Although she had never thought about confessing her love to Lu Chang'an, but for some reason, she always liked to become particularly sensitive and sad when she thought of Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui watched his slender fingers caressing the cat's belly, the tips of his fingers sinking into the soft hair. He raised his head, and there was a clear look of gentleness on his face. Even he was facing these cute things. The little animals will also show such expressions. His behavior seemed completely inconsistent with what he said. "I don't like cats." Bai Hui laughed again. Could it be that "I don't like cats" he said could be regarded as "I like cats, but I don't want to tell you. Come and listen"? Smirk. Lu Chang'an glanced at Bai Fen and gave up stroking the orange cat's belly. "You're stupid," Bai Hui shouted back. "Where did you get the cat?" Lu Chang'an asked casually. "Xiaotang's cat. Xiaotang said that she needs to lose weight recently and take her out for a walk. My cousin was originally responsible for it. She used to lead the dog a lot. As you know, my cousin drank too much last night. If you can't get up today, leave the cat to me." Bai Hui saw that Lu Chang'an didn't seem to be leaving right away, or looked impatient, so he rambled on. "This cat's name is Saint." Saint. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but look up at the sky, although he couldn't see anything. "Xiaotang said that because this cat is chubby and looks like Zhou Dongdong, he named it Saint Girl." Bai Hui didn't understand very well. Why does it need to be called Saint Girl when it looks like Zhou Dongdong? "Then what's the name of her dog?" Lu Chang'an asked calmly. "Master of the Gate." Sure enough, even if Lu Chang'an's thinking jumped, he could still land on the preparation point. He thought that since the cat can be called the Saint, then the name of her dog. Recommend a book. Huaxia Chronicles. There is no CP in this article. Copywriter, I have become green and stronger. The completed articles Qinghui Chronicles and Kongfang's World have been completed. Thank you for your support. Let's be a mudslide in the romance industry. Author, Song of Thorns. This book is specially recommended by the King of Pi, Lao Na, who is still young. You can read it and read it. If you think it is good, please praise me. If you don't like it, please criticize this monk. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 551. Lu Chang'an nodded and said nothing. The names she gives to her pets are quite strange. The owner. Bai Hui burst out laughing. I also asked her why the dog was named the owner. She said it was because sometimes when she is lying or sitting on the ground, the dog likes to lie on her, as if he wants to use her as a mount. But why do you have to call her the owner? It's a mess. Yes, there is no logic at all, and other people with quick thinking cannot understand it. Lu Chang'an admired sincerely. Zhu Huntang is really cute. He said people are cute again. Why does he say cats are cute, and Zhu Huntang is cute, but he refuses to say Bai Hui is cute? Is there really nothing cute about Bai Hui in his eyes? Bai Hui was a little dissatisfied. Is he blind? Bai Fen's big eyes, small nose, red and delicate lips, beautiful face, sweet smile, and cute height difference are all very cute. Compliment them as you like, compliment her little skirt and socks. And shoes with beautiful bows will do. At least it's much cuter than this stupid cat that only acts stupid and cute. Bai Hui is a little unconvinced. He originally liked this cat, but he is actually willing to praise this stupid cat instead of Bai Hui. It makes Bai Fen like it less. What's a little strange is that Lu Chang'an usually doesn't praise Zhu Huntang, but only bullies Zhu Huntang. He is content to make Zhu Huntang cry and cry, hugging her little skirt and stockings and being heartbroken. That's what Lu Chang'an likes to see. What's going on today? Uncharacteristically praising Zhu Huntang for being cute. Just like Zhu Huntang was confused in explaining why his dog was called the owner, Lu Chang'an was also confused in praising Zhu Huntang. Could it be because there are some jokes about Holy Girl and Sect Master that only the two of them understand, right? That's probably it. Bai Hui calmly felt that this was the story behind it. Are you here to see Zhu Huntang? Bai Hui bent down and stroked the stupid cat. The cat was at Lu Chang'an's feet, and Bai Hui was squatting in front of him. Lu Chang'an watched her long hair slide down her shoulders, and a ring of ears leaked out from the hair. In the slightly cold morning, it looked like fresh and tender hair. Like melons and fruits, it is probably crisp, tender, slightly sweet and cool. No, Lu Chang'an shook his head. You know, pig ear salad is delicious. Who doesn't know? Bai Hui was puzzled. This person was really clueless when talking, just like Zhu Huntang. It's no wonder that the two people seemed to dislike each other, but they could often play together. You squat here, I'm going to find someone to run with. Lu Chang'an raised his foot and stepped on the cat's belly. Bai Hui opened his feet. She always wanted to touch the cat's belly with her hands, but he stepped on it with his feet. It was really annoying. Are you okay? Bai Hui raised her head and asked. In fact, she often ran. For example, when she was at Gao Dui's house, she met him while running in the morning. But this person would not ask her to run in the morning. Bai Hui knows that when Bai Hui runs, she usually feels that she has eaten a little too much the day before, or when she touches her belly and feels a little fleshy, she will think about it. Got running? Lu Chang'an shook his head. Professor Lu and Professor Ling trained for a long time yesterday. Normally, people who don't usually train will have a sore back and limbs the next day after a sudden high-intensity exercise. They lie in bed and don't want to get up in the morning, then Lu Chang'an is going to get them up for a run. Who else could it be? Could it be Zhu Huntang? It's impossible. Zhu Huntang believes that morning is when fairies are most beautiful. The various postures of beautiful girls lying on the bed at this time are full of dreamy beauty. It is impossible for her to get up and go for a run with Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui stroked the cat's belly and watched Lu Chang'an leave. Lu Chang'an went upstairs, knocked on the door, and An Nuan opened the door. An Nuan is still wearing yesterday's clothes, and her hair is a little messy. Although she still looks like a beautiful girl, her skin is obviously not in the most perfect condition. It lacks a particularly moist and shiny feeling. Maybe she hasn't washed her face yet? It looked more like he had been in some kind of radioactive and dry environment for a long time. What does it smell like? Lu Chang'an frowned and looked at An Nuan. Ah, why are you here so early? An Nuan screamed and ran into the bathroom. Lu Chang'an walked in. He walked past the bedroom without looking away, and then saw Professor Ling and Lu Yuwang sitting together having breakfast. Isn't this boring? Not looking like he was paralyzed on the bed, Lu Chang'an walked over slightly dissatisfied. Huh, Lu Chang'an took a few steps. Instead of walking directly over, he stood some distance away from them. They have the same smell as An Nuan. Why do you all stink so much? It's like sleeping in a stinky ditch all night with wild dogs, rats, and cockroaches in a rubbish dump, Lu Chang'an described. Is it that smelly? Lu Yuwang and Professor Ling were still wearing yesterday's clothes. She raised her sleeves and smelled them. Women still mind how others describe them. Maybe, Don't do this again, Professor Ling frowned. She felt that her nose was blocked and she had lost the ability to distinguish. What do you think we did last night? Lu Yuwang said to Lu Chang'an in a somewhat mysterious and show-off manner. It's a bit like the way Nuan and Lu Chang'an skipped class and came back to show off to their friends. In short, they are what they look like after doing bad things. Go to the internet cafe all night. Lu Chang'an could still recognize the smell. It was actually a smoky smell. It was not as exaggerated as Lu Chang'an said, but it definitely didn't smell good. How do you know? Professor Ling asked. This smell is so unique that even the perfume you use can't cover it up, and it can't be washed away. It will remain smelly for a long time, Lu Chang'an threatened them. Lu Yuwang bit a noodle and looked at Lu Chang'an in surprise. Why do you have to stay up all night? Lu Chang'an really didn't expect them to do such a thing. Just, Lao Ling said we wanted to have a fling, so we chose something a little crazy, Lu Yuwang explained, first saying that it was not her idea. She was still a little afraid of Lu Chang'an. When he came in he looked bad. Right, Professor Ling hesitated and admitted with some embarrassment. The first time you have sex is to go to an internet cafe and spend the whole night. Lu Chang'an smiled and shook his head. She is indeed a woman from a good family. Facing the experience of regaining her youth, she wants to try rebellion, choice, and indulgence in the relationship between men and women. It has nothing to do with the release of desire, but it is just going to an internet cafe and spending the whole night. No? What else can we do? Professor Lu rolled his eyes at Lu Chang'an. How do you access the internet? Are there any black internet cafes that can provide you with access to the internet? Lu Chang'an asked casually. In fact, using other people's ID cards to access the internet is something minors often do. We went to the internet cafe where Nuan lives, a chain internet cafe called DSB. Nuan's classmate plays some competitions in this internet cafe, Professor Ling explained. It seems that he went to the internet cafe of the DSB team that Lin Xinhua is in. Lin Xinhua played games in that internet cafe and was finally chosen by the team. Lin Xinhua and his team's daily training are often in the internet cafe, unlike other LPL. The team builds a high-end team base. As long as you are happy, two middle-aged women went to the internet cafe to stay up all night. In fact, this seemed a bit crazy to them, but they actually took their daughter with them and made her stink. Lu Chang'an pointed to the dining table. You guys eat quickly, and after that, you and I will go for a 20-kilometer morning jog. Lu Yuwang's chopsticks fell on the table. 20 kilometers, Professor Ling felt that his legs were trembling. He ran at the workers' stadium yesterday, but he didn't run that far. 20 kilometers, this must be a training event for marathon runners or the military, right? Lu Yuwang and Professor Ling both looked at Lu Chang'an with pleading eyes. What's more, they stayed up all night last night. Although the two people's physical fitness is now better than usual due to the explosion of cell activity, their mental strength is another matter. Anyone who has stayed up all night knows that after staying up all night, you may not be able to fall asleep. You can play with your mobile phone for a long time, but if you are forced to do something serious, such as going to class or working, the desire to sleep will really make you feel very tired. I have a strong desire to skip school and work and go to bed. How about 2 kilometers? Lu Yuwang looked at Lu Chang'an carefully, then picked up the noodle bowl and covered his face to prevent him from swearing at her and spitting out his saliva. Lu Chang'an ignored her. At this time, Nuan finally left the bathroom. She took a shower and washed her hair. She didn't even have time to blow dry. She put on a drying cap, wrapped her hair and ran out. Baby Nuan smells delicious again, and Nuan ran to Lu Chang'an, pouting a little aggrievedly. Okay, be good. Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction. He always liked the clear and pure fragrance of girls and didn't like other smells. Why don't you smell it first to see if I smell good? And Nuan put her cheek to Lu Chang'an to smell it. It smells good, it smells good. Lu Chang'an smelled it and touched her smooth cheek. He and Nuan was satisfied and pouted sadly, when you walked in just now and saw me frowning, my heart was broken, humph. After saying that, she hugged Lu Chang'an, letting him feel the fragrant beauty again, and dispelling the smelly impression he had on her when he first came in. Oh my God! Professor Ling felt goosebumps rising. I'm her mother, but I really didn't teach her this coquettish skill. Lu Yuang looked ashamed. And Nuan gave Lu Yu a blank look and didn't take it seriously. If a girl acts coquettishly towards her boyfriend, does she need to be taught? This is all natural and will happen naturally. And Nuan does know how to act coquettishly. With such coquettish skills, no wonder Lu Chang'an likes her. Professor Ling touched his neck, but the goosebumps did not spread to his neck. Fortunately, both Lu Chang'an and Nuan have pleasant looks, and the two of them are a bit like idol dramas, which aroused Professor Ling's girlish heart a little bit, and after a short period of adaptation, they felt a little sweet. The key is that she looks good, Lu Chang'an said truthfully. And Nuan was praised and very proud. Lu Yuang snorted disapprovingly. Her mother is obviously prettier than her, but you have a better attitude. It's just because as an elder, I definitely won't act coquettishly towards him, so in the final analysis, it's not just an Nuan's act of coquettishness. She looks average, she just knows how to act coquettishly. Lu Yuang said her point of view. When many girls chase boys, some only know how to be nice to them, to be considerate, to be gentle, to ask for and get everything. Well, she can't let go of her figure, she can only be reserved, always waiting for the man to discover her feelings, and in the end, her efforts are often in vain. As for An Nuan, when she is arrogant, when she is coquettish, she is born to be able to act in palace fight scenes. The kind of person who survives until the last episode, has always been like a white lotus, but actually has many tricks. Have you ever said that about your own daughter? An Nuan said angrily, I am called witty. All my methods in love will turn into cute behaviors just because he likes me. What do you know? I used to worry that she would be eaten to death by Lu Chang'an, but later I found out that she is very powerful and very thoughtful. Lu Yuang finished eating the noodles, stood up, stretched and walked to the bedroom. You guys go to Niwai, I'm going to bed. Professor Lu, it's not like you criticized An Nuan for a while and changed the topic, so you can go to bed as if you forgot to go for a morning run, Lu Chang'an reminded. Lu Yuang ran into the bedroom, quickly took off her clothes and lay on the bed. Could he still do anything to her? How about forgetting it? Professor Ling asked Lu Chang'an tentatively, while slowly moving towards the bedroom. She has made such a gesture, Lu Chang'an has to give her some face, right? Lu Chang'an just laughed. Professor Ling felt that this kind of smile was really a bit disgusting. He had just seen him smiling at An Nuan, as warm as the winter sunshine. Lu Yuang failed to succeed in the end. Lu Chang'an did not enter the bedroom, but he had a good girlfriend. An Nuan was worried that Lu Chang'an could not bear it anymore and angrily went to the bedroom to pull Lu Yuang. Wouldn't he be able to see Professor Liu's disheveled appearance? This is unacceptable to An Nuan. An Nuan pulled Lu Yuang and Professor Ling out, and then went for a morning run with Lu Chang'an. In the end, they did not finish the 20 kilometers, but Lu Yuang and Professor Ling were still in a state of ecstasy due to Lu Chang'an's torment, and were severely physically and mentally tortured. An Nuan supported Lu Yuang, and Lu Chang'an supported Professor Ling back to the hotel building. Down. Surprisingly, when the group of people went out for a run and left the hotel, they did not look at Bai Hui. When they came back, Lu Chang'an saw Bai Hui still squatting there holding the element-devouring beast, as if she had not left since they met her in the morning. Live the same. Give, some, monthly passes, no. No monthly passes, I will die. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Julian Kuiken Rusiahua. Chapter 552. Bai Fen took off her white bow tie Lolita-style high heels and gently stepped on the orange cat's soft belly with her toes. The orange cat lay lazily, the tip of its tail twirling around, and its forepaws retracted to let Bai Fen play with it. Bai Hui turned sideways and happened to see En Nuan and his party. En Nuan was slightly panicked, because just now, Professor Lu thought it was uncomfortable to breathe while wearing a mask, so he had already pulled it off. Seeing Bai Hui standing up to say hello, En Nuan quickly pretended not to see Bai Hui and lowered her voice, "Don't let Bai Hui find out." Lu Chang'an let go of Professor Ling, and En Nuan pulled Professor Ling forward and signaled Lu Chang'an to deal with Bai Hui. So Lu Chang'an stood there calmly and waved goodbye to En Nuan. Bai Hui walked over with the orange cat in hand, and looked in the direction where Lu Chang'an was waving with some doubts, and could only see the backs of the three girls. It was a few people who were messing around with Lu Chang'an. Bai Hui pursed her lips and secretly thought bad things about Lu Chang'an. Anyway, he didn't know anything about what she was thinking. "What are you thinking about?" Lu Chang'an looked at Bai Hui's eyes that were sliding back and forth in his eyes. "I'm thinking of you." Bai Hui let it slip as if he was thinking. He was startled and almost blurted out. He quickly pulled the leash, causing the fat cat to twist its body for a while, but it had no intention of getting up. "Miss us?" "No. Nothing." Bai Hui quickly denied. "Oh, I'm leaving then." Seeing that Bai Hui didn't seem to be concentrating on discovering Lu Yuang's suspicions with En Nuan, Lu Chang'an felt that his mission was completed and was ready to leave. Etc. Lu Chang'an stopped and turned to look at Bai Hui, without much questioning or doubt in his eyes. I want to choose a gift for En Nuan." After Bai Hui finished speaking, he thought about it and felt that this was a very suitable and justified reason to call him. Again, Lu Chang'an was confused about this reason. Didn't she just give En Nuan a thermos pot yesterday? Yes. Bai Hui stretched out his finger and hooked his earlobe. Can't he? There are so many things to care about and so many questions to ask. "Are you going after En Nuan?" Lu Chang'an looked wary. "That's not okay. We are all acquaintances. If you poach me like this, we will not be happy to meet each other for decades to come." Bai Hui's cheeks turned red. She didn't know if he was simply joking or reminding her of something. "Let's go, let me help you choose a gift." Lu Chang'an laughed again. It is always a happy thing to tease a little girl. He no longer thinks too much about the etiquette of giving gifts between girls. The things they do and the meaning of their good friends are not included in the Xinhua dictionary, and he doesn't try to figure it out. "Why are you so annoying?" Bai Hui held the cat and raised his fist to hit Lu Chang'an twice. He was probably infected by the orange cat, and there was a hint of hum in his voice. The orange cat was reluctant to move, but there was nothing that could be done about it. Bai Hui was now unwilling to squat here with it. Bai Fei pulled her hard and finally rolled over, stomping lazily towards the mall. "Go inside." "Why can your cat enter the mall?" Lu Chang'an asked. The symbol of high-end shopping malls is that there are doormen dressed in suits and leather shoes standing at every door. He remembered that Zhou Dongdong never brought Lucine to the mall because the mall did not allow him to enter the mall. Every time he came here, Zhou Dongdong asked Lucine to go back by himself. The orange cat was not stopped. "Because it's not my cat, it's Zhu Huntang's cat." Zhu Huntang explained, "This is a cat using human power. I see these people only recognized Zhu Huntang and his cat, so Zhou Dongdong, a powerful boss in the Zhuzhu Fenglai sword sect, was not treated as well as the immortal sheep protector. But speaking of it, there is a saying that X's are not as good as dogs. Lu Sin can be regarded as Zhu Huntang's X-dog. Since dog U003EX, now Lu Sin, as Zhu Huntang's X-dog, does not receive special treatment, so Zhu Jun will definitely be treated in the future. Tang and her boyfriend broke up. Her boyfriend became an ex and could no longer enter the shopping malls owned by Baojun Group. What fun! Lu Chang'an was thinking about all this, and walked into the mall with Bai Hui. I met An Nuan to come to you last night. She gave me a Murakami Takashi mobile phone case. When I searched for the same model, I found that the price of this mobile phone case was quite expensive. I think I should return the gift. Okay, Bai Hui said carefully in a thoughtful tone, indicating that she didn't suddenly stop him from shopping, but that something really happened. Oh, then you can just give her some cute little things. She likes anything that can be used to make herself cute. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. Bai Hui agreed with Lu Chang'an's statement. And Nuan liked to pretend to be cute. It was fine in high school, but after she established a relationship with Lu Chang'an, she really thought she was a baby. If he falls in love, he will definitely not be like An Nuan. It will probably be similar to what he is now. I don't know if I fall in love and don't act coquettish and pretend to be cute like An Nuan, will that boy like her? Bai Hui glanced at Lu Chang'an. With his superficial aesthetics and taste, Lu Chang'an would probably only like girls who act coquettishly and pretend to be cute, such as rabbits are so cute. Why do they eat rabbits? Help me check, you seem to have classes in the morning, right? Bai Hui asked uncertainly, to see if he had time to go shopping with him. Third or fourth quarter? Oh, I'm also on March 4th, so I'll finish the shopping quickly and let's go back to school together, on the way, Bai Hui said casually. Yeah, by the way. Bai Hui and Lu Chang'an passed by an underwear store. Lu Chang'an and An Nuan went to this underwear store to buy together and met Bai Hui. At that time, Bai Hui and An Nuan had a friendly exchange of experiences related to buying underwear. Sometimes girls like to torture themselves. How about I buy a set of underwear for An Nuan, which can be regarded as a benefit for you? Bai Hui looked at Lu Chang'an calmly and suggested. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Bai Hui wondered with some joy, could it be that Lu Chang'an and An Nuan have been dating for so long and they haven't reached this point yet? Everyone has their own strengths. How about you choose a pair of beautiful stockings for her? Lu Chang'an suggested. Bai Hui was a little happy. It seemed that Lu Chang'an was not very satisfied with An Nuan's cup size. He just liked An Nuan's long legs. Everyone has their own strengths. Does it mean that he thinks An Nuan has long legs, and her strengths are obviously obvious? It seems that he is not so blind. Bai Hui glanced at Lu Chang'an shyly, snorted and nodded, I'll just listen to you. Bai Hui went to pick out stockings for An Nuan. In order to show that her decision was well thought out and not impromptu, Bai Hui also chose carefully. In the end, she found that the pattern and color of the one she chose was particularly beautiful, so she bought one herself. Bai Hui didn't ask Lu Chang'an to help deliver it. That would be too insincere. When giving gifts between good friends, of course they have to be given by hand. After buying the socks, Bai Hui didn't keep Lu Chang'an waiting. She handed the orange cat to the security staff of Bailong Center and asked him to return it on her behalf. That's the good thing about cats. They are not easy to get close to people. They are already familiar with Bayan, but they have no intention of clinging to Bayan. Seeing Bayan leave, they wagged their tails and lay down motionless again. Lu Chang'an still took the subway to Hexi with Bai Hui today. From Bailong Center to Shonan University, there is a river, but the distance is actually not that close. Lu Chang'an was used to walking, and it was good to take the subway twice occasionally. People would always change. At this moment, Bai Hui, who was sitting on the subway with Lu Chang'an, shuttled from the bottom of the river to the university, and Bai Hui, who was in the third year of high school, were together. Bai Hui, who was filled with inexplicable emotions in the KTV and encouraged Lu Chang'an to confess his love to him, didn't seem to have changed much, but seemed completely different. Lu Chang'an's class schedule was the same as Zhu Huntang's. Zhu Huntang still came to class today. After the morning class, Zhu Huntang went to Bai Hui again to cry about some of the usual things. This time Lu Chang'an actually used tape to let Zhu Huntang taste it. It was an unprecedented humiliation, and she didn't understand how she had offended this devil. Lu Chang'an went to the pharmacy at noon. After walking around the drugstore, Lu Chang'an felt a little emotional. There were many kinds of medicines, but those medicines that cost a few cents or a few cents in the past were no longer there. In fact, these cheap medicines are not completely extinct, but pharmacies generally will not take them out or take the initiative to introduce them unless customers ask. The efficacy of these medicines is actually quite good, especially some daily medicines, which are very effective. Many medicines with the same effect are 10 times or hundreds of times more expensive, but may actually be less effective. Medical reform issues must also be in line with the core socialist values. "Young man, what medicine do you want?" the ant in a white coat came over and asked. "I'll buy some suppositories, any kind," Lu Chang'an said. "It doesn't matter what you say. You have to tell me what symptoms you need to treat so that I can get the medicine for you," the ant said doubtfully. "No symptoms, it's fine." The ant looked at Lu Chang'an doubtfully, then showed a knowing smile and pointed at Lu Chang'an. "You have hemorrhoids, right? There's nothing to be ashamed of." As she spoke, the ant took out a box of Maying Long Musk hemorrhoid suppository and handed it to Lu Chang'an. 9 out of 10 men have hemorrhoids. It's normal. This is an old brand and can quickly relieve the condition. But the key is to sit less, exercise more, and eat less spicy food in the future. Seeing Lu Chang'an's refusal, the ant sighed. "Nowadays, male college students buy this. There are more and more cases, it's a common phenomenon." "I'm really not. You can bring me a box of Doxy 9 suppositories, terbinafine suppositories, anything like that." Lu Chang'an reached out and refused. This hemorrhoid suppository was still not suitable. "Oh, I bought it for my girlfriend. You should pay attention to hygiene and take good care of her." The ant shook her head and said with emotion, "Put it together with some topical lotion." "Are there no other symptoms?" "Trichomonas, it regulates the bacterial flora." "Need or not?" "Thank you, no need." Lu Chang'an shook his head. "I just need Dakening Xuan." The ant took 2 boxes of Dixonide and handed them to the cashier. Yan Qingcheng walked in and saw Lu Chang'an and the Dakening Xuan he bought. "As a girl, of course you know what Danan suppository is for. Generally, it is only used by women and their sisters-in-law. Normally, pure girls without boyfriends do not need it." Yan Qingcheng's expression was a little weird, but thinking about Lu Chang'an's chaotic private life and the unsightly scene in the suite at the Peak Hotel, this was something Yan Qingcheng imagined and had never seen in person. Then it's understandable why he came to buy these things. "I recommend a book called Millions of Possibilities. It has a great imagination." Chen Lin pressed a button, and then the life on Earth was destroyed, evolved again, and humans reappeared. "Do you think this is the history of the birth of civilization?" "No, no, no, this is just one of a million possibilities. I'm really immortal." Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 553. It is normal to meet classmates in the drugstore. Most of them come to buy some daily medicines for colds, fevers, toothaches, heat, rashes, athlete's foot, ringworm, and so on. There are also some students who have a fulfilling real life, and it is normal to buy some anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, or some family planning supplies. Under normal circumstances, there is nothing awkward when meeting someone. If you are a gossip, you will even ask what the other person is buying. It's just that some medicines involve privacy, so I don't want to meet my classmates. Lu Chang'an didn't think anything was wrong. If he met her, he'd meet him. But looking at Yan Qingcheng, he didn't seem to want to meet Lu Chang'an. Yan Qingcheng looked at Lu Chang'an, and then at the Doknan suppository that Lu Chang'an bought. He seemed to hesitate to speak. The aunt who sold the medicine glanced over with a slightly scrutinizing look, as if she was observing whether Lu Chang'an's Daxin suppository was for this girl. Come over. Lu Chang'an walked out of the drugstore and saw Yan Qingcheng, who was hesitant to speak and looked embarrassed. Yan Qingcheng hesitated for a moment. Although she decided to keep a distance from him last time when she saw him not even sparing underage girls, but they were acquaintances after all, and it was impossible to break up, so she walked over. I saw you staring at the suppositories I bought. Lu Chang'an has always been very observant. Yan Qingcheng remained silent. Could it be that he wanted to explain something? If he explained, she would like to hear it. If he was not what she thought and observed, Yan Qingcheng would still be willing to give him a chance to let her get to know him again as long as he had enough power to be believed. I know you're embarrassed to buy it. I happen to have 2 boxes here, so I'll give you one, Lu Chang'an said generously. Yan Qingcheng was stunned for a moment, and instantly knew that he didn't want to explain anything at all. He actually thought that she was staring at his suppository because she wanted to buy it too. Yan Qingcheng's cheeks turned red. What did he mean? Take it, don't be embarrassed. Lu Chang'an took out a box and handed it over. Yan Qingcheng hurriedly took a few steps back, as if avoiding a snake or scorpion, feeling ashamed and angry. What do I want for this? I don't have gynecological diseases. Oh, I misunderstood. Lu Chang'an smiled. Then don't stare at other people's purchases anymore, because you might get a misunderstanding. After saying that, Lu Chang'an ignored Yan Qingcheng and turned around to leave. Yan Qingcheng stood there, watching the aunt at the pharmacy looking around in the store. She didn't buy any cold medicine and walked away quickly. This Lu Chang'an. Yan Qingcheng was so angry that she wanted to hit someone. She thought that she, a pure girl who had never had any transgressive contact with the opposite sex except fighting with boys, was actually considered to need to use something like Doknan? Yan Qingcheng knew that Lu Chang'an had always been very hateful, but he was still friendly to her and had no history of provoking or teasing her, except that he often saw her drinking a bottle of orange juice in his hand. Isn't he going a little too far today? College girls suffering from gynecological diseases are usually criticized behind their backs and associated with indiscretions in their private lives. I just stared at the medicine he bought. Didn't I just want him to be more alert and restrained? Is he teasing her like this? However, Yan Qingcheng suddenly remembered Lu Chang'an's last words, which seemed to be a pun. Misunderstand. Could it be that he didn't actually misunderstand her, but that he was reminding her not to misunderstand him just based on what she saw on the surface? If she would be misunderstood by him, maybe he would be misunderstood by her? Yan Qingcheng finally understood, and the anger in her chest disappeared. But if this is the case, I feel like this person is becoming increasingly incomprehensible. Lu Chang'an took 2 boxes of Doknan and walked to the top of Lushan Mountain. Qin Yinan did not report her pregnancy to the school, because if she took pregnancy leave, it would be best not to go to work. The employer was not willing to bear the pregnancy leave for 10 or 8 years. The Daikanon suppositories that Lu Chang'an bought were just for Qin Yinan. Qin Yinan certainly did not have gynecological diseases, but these suppositories were a solution that Lu Chang'an thought of to provide nutrition for the gestational sac. Suppositories refer to solid preparations with a certain shape made of drugs and suitable bases for intraoral administration of drugs in the human body. It is solid at room temperature and can quickly soften and dissolve at body temperature, releasing the drugs contained in it. It doesn't necessarily have to be filled with medicines, it can also be filled with other things. Lu Chang'an arrived at Qin Yinan's suite on the top of the mountain. The person who opened the door was a woman in her early 30s. She was plump and strong, looking capable and agile, but she didn't have the feeling of being a Philistine. A bit like the leader of the servant girls in the homes of princes and nobles in ancient times. He is senior and strong, and can hold down a group of maids and servants with their own thoughts. He is a person who follows the old lady in the backyard and even gives face to the young masters. Hello, Lu Chang'an nodded. Hello, you are here to see Miss Jean. She is in the hot spring room and will be out in a moment, the woman replied with a smile. The voice was not that loud, but also had a gentle and waxy flavor. It seemed that she was not from the north. Tall and strong women with such a build were rare in the south. Okay, Lu Chang'an sat down. Why is Qin Yan'an taking a bath in the hot spring at this noon? No wonder she specially renovated the bathroom, and she really likes to soak in it. She thinks she has a good physique and doesn't have to worry about her skin getting wrinkled after soaking in too many hot springs. The woman brought the fruit plate and sat beside him. She looked at Lu Chang'an briefly and asked with a smile, "You are the cousin Lu Chang'an that Miss Jean mentioned, right?" Lu Chang'an nodded. This is the person Qin Yan'an asked to take care of her. He is naturally someone she trusts. Even so, Qin Yan'an cannot tell others that the person who is nominally her cousin is actually her brother. That's okay. Said he was her uncle. Then you sit down first, and I'll go to the kitchen to do some work. Seeing that Lu Chang'an seemed to be reluctant to talk, the woman got up and walked to the kitchen. Lu Chang'an looked at the woman's back. Qin Yan'an was pregnant. From a fertility perspective, this woman was a good sign. She seemed to be fertile at first glance. She could bring a strong momentum to families with pregnant women and dispel attempts to the evil spirit that occupies the unformed soul of a baby in the womb. Of course, this is just a superstitious statement and does not conform to the core values of society. Lu Chang'an just thought about it casually. Lu Chang'an ate the fruit in the fruit plate. After waiting for a while, Qin Yan'an walked out of the hot spring room and glanced at Lu Chang'an. His heels had just landed. There was a hint of joy in expecting unexpected satisfaction on his face, and then a wave of shame surged into his cheeks. And quickly bit her lip to stop herself from screaming, and hurried back to the bedroom. There were only 2 women at home and she ran out without much on. After a while, Qin Yan'an walked out in home clothes, her hair half dry and half wet, wrapped in a dry hair cap. She walked to sit opposite Lu Chang'an and didn't say hello to him. She just took a large cherry to bite. He stood up and squinted at the program on the TV in the living room. You were soaking in the hot spring. Didn't she know I was here and didn't even tell you? Lu Chang'an was a little confused. This was simply setting him up. What if he was a weak-willed person? What if he has evil thoughts towards Qin Yan'an? Fortunately he is a good man. She should have said it, it's just that she didn't know that I was listening to music with headphones on. I vaguely heard what she said, so I just said okay. Qin Yan'an didn't want to explain so much, but when they all asked, Qin Yan'an couldn't say it was someone else's fault, or let him think she did it on purpose. In fact, it doesn't matter even if it's intentional, a woman won't care too much if she encounters such an accident a few times. However, this shy and reserved, slightly coy attitude still needs to be achieved. So after Qin Yan'an finished speaking, he took the fresh, juicy, blood-red cherry and gently bit it. It seemed pretty good to spend an afternoon with the cold wind howling outside the window. Qin Yan'an just wanted to think about it, because she knew that Lu Chang'an had classes in the afternoon, not to mention that if she leaned into his arms, he might dislike her. This person used to be like a holy girl, and no one else could touch her. He was not allowed to touch him. Now of course he could be allowed to touch him, but his arms were probably reserved for that little white lotus. Miss Jean, lunch is ready, the woman came out and said. Have you eaten? Qin Yan'an had been watching TV, and then turned to Lu Chang'an and said. Can't we eat again after eating? Lu Chang'an has also been watching TV. He feels that this is an unnecessary question. For things like eating, you can eat once and then eat again. This is common sense. Qin Yan'an stood up, with a graceful posture, avoiding the woman, and whispered into Lu Chang'an's ear, Can I eat again after eating? After saying that, he pinched Lu Chang'an's shoulder hard, but his skin and flesh were too strong, so he pinched it with his fingernails, complained dissatisfiedly that his skin was thick, and then he walked to the dining table and sat down, looking at him with smiling eyes. Of course you can eat again after eating. That means eating. Is she eating? Lu Chang'an firmly refused to allow her to belittle herself like this. There was no salty or nutritious conversation at the dinner table. The woman asked a few questions if the dishes were to their taste. Lu Chang'an said they were good, and Qin Yan'an asked for a bottle of chili peppers and a bottle of pickled radish to be served with the meal. After eating, the woman consciously went into the guest room usually prepared for Lu Chang'an to stay there, giving Qin Yan'an and Lu Chang'an space to talk. I recommend a book by a friend. The title is Reincarnation Paradise. Xiahua just received the notice yesterday to participate in Kidian's update event. She has been on the transportation this morning, took a rest after eating in the afternoon, and slept until night, so she didn't have time to update today. I will officially deal with those who are with me tomorrow. After all, I am only 18 years old, so I believe they are no match for me. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 554. There are several pots of fresh and elegant flowers and plants around the sofa, which appropriately embellishes the original simple Nordic-style home decoration. I call her Sister Lan, and I can't think of her as an ordinary nanny. However, she is very good in everything she does and follows the rules. I am quite relieved. Qin Yan'an glanced at the direction of Sister Ian's room and said, "It's really unusual. In the past, wealthy families liked servants like this who looked good at giving birth and were strong and capable, because they felt that such a woman could also feed their children well." Lu Chang'an nodded. "That's not what I mean." Qin Yan'an was a little shy. "Didn't she find a nurse to come over? She still doesn't know when the child in her belly will take shape?" Qin Yan'an pointed to the door with a smile and lowered her voice. "She is actually the nanny of the eldest young master of the Tang family. Now the eldest young master of the Tang family is getting married, and the young mistress has a great background, so she has to send Sister Lan away first. It's just right, I needed someone, so Miss Tang helped her brother and sent him to me. This young master's taste." Lu Chang'an understood and nodded. "It's pretty good." "It's not as good as your taste, young master." "Yeah," Qin Yan'an snorted. "You were obsessed with that spider poisonous woman Sumei, so you're not necessarily any better than others." Lu Chang'an didn't say anything. He understood that Qin Yan'an was worried about Sumei's affairs again. More than 100 years have passed, and only women can worry about it for so long. "Don't look down on me, Sister Lan used to be a poor person. She married young and gave birth to a daughter early. Her husband's family saw that she was not giving birth to a boy, so they disliked her in every possible way. Her ex-husband was also indolent and spent all day outside gambling, and later went to jail for hurting someone, but fortunately, I met the eldest young master of the Tang family later." Qin Yan'an said with some enthusiasm for gossip. "I don't look down on her, let alone the eldest young master of the Tang family." Of course Lu Chang'an didn't have such thoughts. "I said it's good, but it's good. Sister Lan is in a good mood now. She doesn't expect to be able to rise to the top. She is just a little worried about her daughter. The little girl is older and she has a bit of admiration for the eldest young master of the Tang family." Qin Yan'an looked at Lu Chang'an and said, "Why are you looking at me?" Lu Chang'an was confused. Her eyes were a bit strange. "Why are you looking at me?" Qin Yan'an smiled and hit Lu Chang'an, and said coquettishly, "Not only did I look at you, I also hit you." Lu Chang'an didn't have the same experience as her. "By the way, why didn't you stay with your family today? Why did you come to me?" Qin Yan'an took another cherry and took a bite. The cherry was very sweet, but her tone was still slightly sour. Of anger. Something happened. Lu Chang'an looked at his knees with his fingers. How should he word it? Looking at Qin Yan'an's confused eyes, Lu Chang'an no longer hesitated. This was just a very serious experimental discussion involving life sciences. So Lu Chang'an took Dakeningsuan out of the bag and placed it in front of Qin Yinan. Daclonide suppository. Qin Yinan was familiar with this kind of gynecological suppository, which involved women's private use of medicine. Qin Yinan was slightly ashamed. What are you doing with this? I don't need it. Qin Yinan put down the Dakenin suppository. He was careful. He felt that it would be less convenient for a woman to pay attention to her personal hygiene when she was pregnant. I bought this to be prepared. It's just that her pregnancy is completely different from other people's. She doesn't need it. With her current physique, how could she be infected with these diseases? No, Lu Chang'an couldn't possibly not know this, so why did he buy this? Qin Yinan became more and more confused. The production process of the suppository shell is not very complicated, but it is a professional production after all, and I can't just make it casually, so I bought these because I was interested in the suppository shell. As for the inside, it can be used to load nutrients. It is convenient for you to attract and provide it to the gestational sac in your body. Lu Chang'an put forward his suggestion in a serious and calm tone. Qin Yinan took a bite of the cherry gently. Her teeth sank into the pulp and paused, not continuing to bite. She already understood what Lu Chang'an meant. But she couldn't accept it. Qin Yinan stood up, gave Lu Chang'an a hard chop, turned and walked to the bedroom, shouting, "Sister Lan, see you off." Lu Chang'an looked at Qin Yinan's back and understood. It seems that not everyone loves science. Sister Lan walked out of the room. She didn't understand what happened, and she wouldn't look at Lu Chang'an because of Qin Yinan's sudden anger. She still kept smiling, and didn't say to let Lu Chang'an go, she just looked at him. "Goodbye." Lu Chang'an nodded and said goodbye. He did not leave immediately, but walked to the viewing platform on the top of the mountain next to it. The weather was gloomy, and there were only a few tourists here and there, still manipulating the telescopes on the viewing platform. After a couple scanned the QR code to pay, they opened their binoculars to look at the scenery at the bottom of the mountain. However, they were covered by a cloud and could not see anything, so they started cursing. Lu Chang'an smiled and turned to look at the hotel next to him and the viewing balcony of Qin Yinan's suite. He thought about Qin Yinan's reaction just now. Qin Yinan was not easily angry with Lu Chang'an. Soon he figured out what he had done inappropriately. Qin Yinan's reaction was a bit unexpected. It seems that as she becomes more and more able to accept Yesijin's former identity and those past memories, especially her current physical condition, her mentality has become somewhat different from before. It's different. She didn't think enough about it. She just thought that she should maintain a simple relationship with her as brother and sister. But in her opinion, it was not necessary to be a close lover, but as for the gestational sac in her belly, it should be a natural, loving blessing. Like other children, it has the love of its parents integrated into it as it grows. It is not a scientific method like Lu Chang'an's, as if the child is just an experimental subject and a scientific research result. Lu Chang'an once told Zhu Huntang that he understood the first chapter of the Book of Songs, but not the second chapter. The first part talks about the love between men and women, and the second part talks about the relationship between parents and children. If you want to understand the text inside and interpret it, there is definitely no problem. His lack of understanding actually means that he has never experienced it personally. He regarded Qin Yinan's pregnancy as a life phenomenon, but Qin Yinan did not see it that way. Let's have a good conversation with her next time. After being honest with her, just make it clear. Lu Chang'an had just walked down the mountain when a car stopped beside him. Lu Chang'an also stopped and lowered the car window, revealing Sunangziu's small face. Her hair was still stained with some tiny drops of water. People who didn't know better might think she was a girl just now. A naughty girl runs under an irrigation sprinkler in a meadow. I thought of a way that doesn't require you to have sex with Qin Yinan, but is simple and convenient for her gestational sac to absorb nutrients. Sunangzio is very satisfied with her mind. Scientific research requires unconstrained imagination and an eclectic way of thinking. Suppository, Lu Chang'an asked calmly. Sunangzio was stunned for a moment. Don't go, she won't agree. Lu Chang'an continued to walk forward. Sunangzio hesitated for a moment, then ordered the driver to turn around. It seemed that Lu Chang'an had already communicated with Qin Yinan. Unexpectedly, he and I had a tacit understanding on this matter, and they were worthy of being husband and wife. I recommend a book called Transformation in the Marvel World. Although Xiahua is not a Marvel fan, she has seen the movies. This book is worth reading. Sorry, I fell into the sea today. Fortunately, the water was not deep, so there was no danger to life or property damage. However, I didn't change clothes in time, so I caught a cold, and my 18-year-old body couldn't handle it. I lost the spelling battle for the time being. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 555. The car caught up with Lu Chang'an, and Sunangzio got out of the car and followed Lu Chang'an to school. She raised her head and glanced at Lu Chang'an's profile. He was a little taller now than he was then. He may feel that his current appearance is more in line with the general image of contemporary youth and can blend in more perfectly. Back then, Master Ye was really graceful and elegant, and he was definitely a handsome man on par with many other handsome men. Especially when he was wearing military uniform, he made those famous ladies almost crazy. It's a pity that even though he was the man in their boudoir dream, he was only Su Mei's boudoir's pillow. How could it be that it was Miss Su who was the most beautiful in Jiangnan at that time? Sunangzio still feels a little proud when she thinks about it. There is no difference between a woman's thoughts and the pride that men feel when they sleep with a woman who is popular with thousands of boys. Sunangzio went to Qin Yinan to talk to Qin Yinan about using suppositories today. She thought that whether Qin Yinan could agree to it was probably between 50 and 50, but she also knew that if Lu Chang'an said it himself, the chance of Qin Yinan agreeing would be zero. Qin Yinan's thoughts are really known to everyone on the road. But after all, these are corn cobs grown in my own land. If any young daughter-in-law or eldest daughter wants to cut them, they won't be able to do so. Let me talk about this matter. Sunangzio did not give up just like that. Her temperament has never been to give up when frustrated. Back then, she would try again and again to deal with the eldest young master of the Ye family, let alone how to deal with a little girl like Qin Yinan. Are you going to tell me? Lu Chang'an smiled. The laughter was not as cold as the wind passing by his lips in winter, but he felt that Sunangzio was a little confused. You didn't consider a woman's psychology. If you go and say it, in her opinion, it's an act of putting on pants and not admitting it. Sunangzio was very calm when she said this, as if she was not involved in Qin Yinan's pregnancy. Then what are you talking about? Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly. This matter has already been concluded. Who is responsible and whose fault is clear to those who know about it. Let me tell you, you see, in the past, in a wealthy family, the master was having a romantic affair and accidentally made the eldest daughter's belly bigger. At this time, the virtuous lady would come forward and carefully comfort the eldest daughter and talk to her. Together they denounced this master's behavior, and then said that it is not easy for women, promised some benefits, and coaxed her to give birth to the child well. Without the presence of the master, she would not feel that her face was damaged, and she was even a little proud. Because of that, madam, you haven't even given me a cent to give birth to. Sunangzio clapped her hands, walking briskly, as lively as a real girl. As a woman, you just have face in front of me. She has enough face. It doesn't matter if I agree to use suppositories, because I'm not even qualified to use suppositories. I'm going to class. Goodbye. Lu Chang'an glanced at this madam. Sunangxiu and Shang Guandandan should have a good relationship, right? Shang Guandandan likes to think of himself as his mother, and Sunangxiu wants to think of herself as his wife. Can you two play the game of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law fighting by yourselves? Just don't come to him. I'm going to class too. On the way, Sunangxiu was still walking beside Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything, but just looked at the bleak sycamore trees on the roadside. None of the leaves had fallen. There were still some withered and yellow leaves that were reluctant to leave, hanging stubbornly on the branches, hoping to survive the season. Lu Chang'an remembered seeing Sunangxiu's back on the first day of school, at the registration office of the School of Biology. Sunangxiu is also in the School of Biology, but she is not in the same class as Lu Chang'an. In fact, they have always taken major classes together, but she has never attended the class. Even among her classmates, few knew that there was such a classmate in their class, and they did not think that the rumored 14-year-old genius girl admitted to Hunan University this year was her classmate. Sunangxiu followed Lu Chang'an into the classroom and attracted some attention. After all, he was an unfamiliar face. It's been so long since school started, so I already know almost all the students in the same class and the next class in the same major in the department, and there are basically no new faces that I have no impression of at all. Sunangxiu is such a new face, but she is too beautiful. Everyone's attention is not on whether she is their classmate, but on the fact that she is following Lu Chang'an. Do girls really like academic-type boys? Lu Chang'an, who had successfully established a reputation since the beginning of school, was like a magnet, and all the amazingly beautiful girls came to him one by one. Lu Chang'an still sat in the last row. Qin's Haiqiang and the other three also walked into the classroom shortly afterwards. When they saw a beautiful girl they had never seen sitting next to Lu Chang'an, they consciously sat in the front row. I always feel that the eyes of this beautiful girl and the aura exuding from her body are much harder to get in touch with than Zhu Huntang. This is Sunangxiu, who is also from our School of Biology. This is the first time he has come to class today. Although Lu Chang'an often misses classes and cannot be present in every class, he is sure that Sunangxiu has never been here before, otherwise there would not be so many a strange and appraising look. He took the initiative to introduce them to the three people in front of him. After all, he was just an ordinary person, and Sunangxiu was the daughter of a wealthy family. Introducing the students to such a well-connected daughter of a wealthy family might make it easier to find a job in the future. For example, Guan Yuan has been doing well since he met Sunangxiu. Hello. Facing a beautiful girl like Sunangxiu who is exquisite down to every hair, the three of them were polite and their tone was the kind of formal response after being introduced to her. Sunangxiu nodded indifferently. There was no enthusiasm, but it could not be said to be cold. It would not make people feel too rude and give people a proper step down. This is the most basic self-cultivation. For Sunangxiu, in addition to being born out of nature, not showing enthusiasm easily is a kind of self-protection that saves trouble. For many people who are not so young, indifference is a comfortable attitude towards life, but it does not mean that there is no kindness, tenderness, and enthusiasm in their hearts. Qin's Haiqiang has a girlfriend. Wei Xuanyi saw that Lu Chang'an didn't seem to talk to the beautiful girl next to him, so he turned around and pressed his arm on the table behind him, gossiping to Lu Chang'an. Congratulations. Lu Chang'an raised his hand directly towards Qin's Haiqiang without any doubts or questions. Qin's Haiqiang was in embarrassment. He didn't know if Lu Chang'an really didn't know what his girlfriend was, or if he was teasing him. Last time I saw him buying lipstick, he was really willing to give it up. 3 sticks cost more than 800 yuan, and they seemed to be small ones. Sun Shutong sighed with emotion. Now tell me, it costs more to play mobile games, or does your girlfriend spend more? One shot is 648 plus one shot is 328. It is still cheaper than mobile games. Qin's Haiqiang knocked on the table calmly. Girlfriends are more fun than mobile games, Wei Xuanyi said enviously, and looked down at the girls in his class. Except for rich ladies like Zhu Huntang, the only one suitable for ordinary boys was Yan Qingcheng. Wei Xuanyi now feels that Yan Qingcheng is good looking, has a good personality, and is taller. He didn't feel this way when he first started school. At that time, his eyes were set higher by Zhu Huntang. As soon as she started school, she came into contact with beautiful girls like Zhu Huntang. Yan Qingcheng could only be regarded as ordinary. Now that the semester is almost over and she hasn't found a girlfriend yet, the look in the girl's eyes is naturally different. Everyone has his own merits. It would be best if I have a girlfriend who can play Honor of Kings with me, Sun Shutong said. Compromise. A lot of girls play this game, Qin's Haiqiang said. While chatting, the three of them talked about mobile games again. Qin's Haiqiang just chatted. He has other hobbies now. Not only does he save money than playing mobile games, but he can also make money. Lu Chang'an sat in the back and listened to their chat, interjecting a few words from time to time. This was the first time that Sunangxiu saw his daily life at school with his classmates. He didn't bother him. He just felt that this person was really awesome. This kind of integrated state of mind, so far Sunangxiu has been unable to do it at all. While she was talking, Zhu Huntang appeared. She stood at the door and looked around, and saw Lu Chang'an and Sunangxiu sitting together. Zhu Huntang stood there in shock. He hesitated for a few seconds, then moved over little by little and stood next to Sunangxiu. Do you want to sit down? Sunangxiu couldn't help but frown slightly. When she saw Zhu Huntang, she always felt a little out of breath. You'd better keep your distance from him. Zhu Huntang lowered his voice and said in Sunangxiu's ear, pointing to Lu Chang'an on the other side. After saying that, Zhu Huntang tilted his head and glanced at Qin's Haiqiang in front of him. He wondered if Qin's Haiqiang had brought tape to class in the afternoon. Why? Sunangxiu asked in confusion, don't you like to play with Lu Chang'an the most? Be careful, he will trick you into the RV, tie your hands with tape, seal your mouth, and make you scream every day, Zhu Huntang said with lingering fear. She would never do this kind of thing again. Don't want to go through it a second time, unless he has sweet candy flavored tape. Qin's Haiqiang's plastic tape smells so bad, and it may contain formaldehyde, which will poison the little fairy. Isn't this fun? Sunangxiu looked at Zhu Huntang with interest. What do you think? It's not fun. Zhu Huntang stood up straight and commented helplessly, are you a jerk? How are you talking? Sunangxiu's majestic aura suddenly emerged, and she looked at Zhu Huntang coldly. I kindly remind you, Zhu Huntang also exuded the aura of a fairy to confront Sunangxiu. If you don't believe it, forget it. Lu Chang'an is best at dealing with self-righteous rich ladies like you. Maybe you will become his other mount. Zhu Huntang was a little dissatisfied with Sunangxiu's confident attitude. He thought that Zhu Huntang was not the same back then. When facing Lu Chang'an, Zhu Huntang also showed his extraordinary ability and temperament. What was the result? That's no use. Zhu Huntang felt that Sunangxiu was just like when he first met Lu Chang'an and thought he could deal with Lu Chang'an calmly. Since Sunangxiu did not listen to Zhu Huntang's advice, Zhu Huntang hoped that one day Lu Chang'an would make Sunangxiu Baa too. The other mount, Sunangxiu looked at Zhu Huntang. Of course Zhu Huntang refused to expose himself. Just seeing Lu Chang'an sitting there with the old god, Zhu Huntang wanted to go over and say Baa a few times or call grandpa to play, but considering that he abused him at noon, Zhu Huntang stopped playing with him. Zhu Huntang walked to the front and sat with Yan Qingcheng. Sunangxiu actually came to class. Yan Qingcheng flipped through the book with some surprise. She knew Sunangxiu. At the social barbecue event held at Yangui Lake that day, Lu Chang'an brought Shang Guandandan to eat all the sweet potato slices from Yan Qingcheng. It's over, Sunangxiu is here too. This little girl Sunangzio is too arrogant and will be punished by Lu Chang'an sooner or later, Zhu Huntang said expectantly. Why the bleeding? Yan Qingcheng asked in confusion. She and Zhu Huntang were already very familiar with each other. When Zhu Huntang was not sitting with Lu Chang'an, he would usually come to see Yan Qingcheng. It's just bleeding anyway, Zhu Huntang didn't want to explain, and looked back. Even I can't deal with Lu Chang'an. Isn't it just sitting together? We are friends, right? Why does it have anything to do with whether we can cope with each other? Yan Qingcheng asked. Lu Chang'an exudes a mysterious aura, which will unconsciously attract girls who know him. Although my little cousin is young, she may understand love affairs. But Lu Chang'an will not like her. Yes, so she can't deal with Lu Chang'an, Zhu Huntang said with a sigh. Yan Qingcheng twisted her body unnaturally. It turned out that this was how Zhu Huntang viewed the girls who came into contact with Lu Chang'an. Fortunately, I didn't have too much contact with Lu Chang'an. Of course I was not attracted to him, but after objective observation, Lu Chang'an did seem to have such an aura. What about you? Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but ask. Of course I don't count. Zhu Huntang hesitated for a moment. The hesitation was not because of guilt, but because he was clearly confident, but he didn't know why he was confident. After thinking about it for a while, he said with certainty, because he always teases me, all my thoughts are focused on how to resist him. Are you resisting him? I think you are seeking death. Although Yan Qingcheng has not personally witnessed how Lu Chang'an bullied Zhu Huntang, he has often seen Zhu Huntang crying. The key point is, after Zhu Huntang cried and cried, he moved closer to Lu Chang'an again, which made Yan Qingcheng think that Zhu Huntang was the one who was called bleeding. I found that you are also particularly interested in Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang was wearing contact lenses today, and his eyes looked particularly bright and big. He turned left and right to look at Yan Qingcheng with a slightly scrutinizing and suspicious look. This is not an interesting question, it's just gossip. Don't you like gossiping about Lu Chang'an? Yan Qingcheng asked calmly. I like to talk, but I don't dare to talk nonsense. Zhu Huntang said with a sad face, I don't know why, but sometimes I just secretly gossip with others, or provoke or add fuel to the flames, and he will find out. Now, I'm honest. Then let me ask you something. He shouldn't be able to find out if you tell him. Has Lu Chang'an really not messed around with other women besides his girlfriend? Yan Qingcheng's voice became lower and lower, and she also. We can only ask Zhu Huntang to find out. How is that possible? He has at least had sex with 100,000 women. Zhu Huntang stretched out his hands and looked at Yan Qingcheng's dumbfounded expression, feeling a little proud. I'd better keep it to a minimum. A bundle of tape was thrown from behind and landed steadily in front of Zhu Huntang's desk. Zhu Huntang was startled and ignored the class. He hurriedly took the tape and ran out of the classroom. This was not a sweet candy-flavored tape at all. The little fairy fought to the death. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 557. Zhu Huntang ran out of the classroom and raised his hand to throw Qin's Haiqiang's tape into the trash can. However, because this was the trash can closest to the classroom, Zhu Huntang was a little worried. He ran all the way to find a trash can and threw it in. She wanted to warn Qin's Haiqiang not to bring tape to class again. Really, is this person also a pervert? Why bring a bundle of tape to class when he has nothing to do? If he wants to bring tape next time, Zhu Huntang will call a van man. A group of people from a van went to tie him up from head to toe with tape. Zhu Huntang was so angry that he stopped calling them bread people. Anyway, he couldn't deal with Lu Chang'an, but Zhu Huntang was still able to deal with others. Watching Zhu Huntang run out of the classroom, Lu Chang'an smiled at Sunangzia beside him. Sunangzia was already a little angry, and she couldn't stand Lu Chang'an's smile. What did she just do? Sunangzia knew that Lu Chang'an would not throw a bundle of tape over for no reason. I am sitting here, and I can see her mouth moving around, talking about some messy things to Yan Qingcheng. Lu Chang'an pointed at Yan Qingcheng, who was looking back. I will warn her. Yan Qingcheng saw Lu Chang'an pointing at her and turned around in fright. Did Lu Chang'an find out that she and Zhu Huntang were gossiping about him just now? Zhu Huntang was right. Lu Chang'an could always find out that others were talking about him behind his back without knowing why. Yan Qingcheng was thinking, he would never bully her like he bullied Zhu Huntang, would he? If he dared to bully her like this, she would never be bullied like Zhu Huntang. She was not a weak-tempered person. What did she tell you? Sunangzia was slightly curious, because she knew that compared to her, Lu Chang'an was not so alienated and indifferent to Zhu Huntang at this stage. Maybe Zhu Huntang really knew something that even Sunangzia didn't know. Lu Chang'an's gossip. She said that I have had sex with 100,000 women. Lu Chang'an shook his head slightly. This number was a bit outrageous. You mean there are 99,999 besides me? Sunangzia glared at Lu Chang'an. There is something wrong with you. This is what Zhu Huntang said, not me. Lu Chang'an was confused and sat in the front row with his bag. Sunangzia sat there without moving. She was already angry. She took out her mobile phone and sent a message to Zhongqing to ground Zhu Huntang. She skipped classes all day long. Could it be that she, the heir, was trained to inherit Anhui? After class in the afternoon, Lu Chang'an went to An Nuan's house to wait for her. After a while, An Nuan came back by car. She wanted to help Lu Yuwang and Professor Ling bring some things there. The woman packed her things to leave home. If she didn't have a few days, if you plan to do it for at least half a day, there will definitely be something that you didn't bring with you in the end. I'll help her pack her underwear first. Oh, it's true, she can't wear it with her figure now. An Nuan walked into Lu Yuwang's bedroom, half opened the door, and said with half of her body exposed, a little proud, Professor Lu finally stopped suppressing An Nuan physically. She thought she would be able to wear it once she regained her figure, Lu Chang'an said while thinking about other things. An Nuan went to find the clothes in the closet. Nuan, don't you find this strange? Lu Chang'an hesitated and asked through the door. What's going on? It's the matter of your mother and Professor Ling suddenly becoming young. Isn't this the effect of your cream? Yes, this is where I am referring. There was silence in the bedroom. After a brief period of calm, the soft sound of tidying up the wardrobe could be heard again. You are different from Professor Lu and Professor Ling. Middle-aged women like them, whose life trajectories and lives have been solidified, rarely take the initiative to think about the unusual anomalies in natural phenomena. They often accept phenomena directly without understanding them. You are a science student, and I know you are very good, and you are also a girl who is good at analysis and thinking, even though you usually use your mind for jealousy and gossip. Lu Chang'an smiled. Am I like this? An Nuan hummed, her voice deliberately coquettish. Do I need to be jealous? Do I like gossip? If you say that to me, I will get angry and hit you later. Don't you want to ask me? Lu Chang'an guided, wanting her to tell what was on her mind. A girl like An Nuan is very clean, but that doesn't mean she doesn't know how to hide her worries. This is a kind of innate wisdom. She will not be like some girls who will look for their boyfriend to find out the truth no matter what the situation is. She will suppress some doubts in her heart, unless she feels that it is something that seriously affects the relationship between the two. If she feels that this matter will not change her view of a person or shake her feelings, she will not think too much about it. There are very few girls like this. Her appearance is hidden in her psychology, but she seems to be no different from other girlfriends who love gossip and jealousy. An Nuan came out carrying a suitcase. She blinked, looked at Lu Chang'an, put down the suitcase, and looked up at Lu Chang'an again. Lu Changla showed encouraging eyes. He hoped to reveal it to her step by step. I'm worried that they will find it strange, suspect you, and cause you trouble. Of course An Nuan will be curious, but that is not her biggest concern. When she knew that her mother and Professor Ling had these phenomena, she knew that they went directly to Lu Chang'an. In fact, her first reaction at the time was that she was worried that they would cause trouble to Lu Chang'an and that some of Lu Chang'an's secrets would be forced to be exposed. After realizing that his worries were unnecessary, he began to feel a little jealous that they trusted Lu Chang'an so much. "Since you didn't cause me any trouble, what are you thinking about now?" Lu Chang'an asked with a smile. En Nuan nuzzled into Lu Chang'an's arms little by little and listened to his heartbeat. Lu Chang'an stroked her straight and smooth hair. "I was wondering, could you be some kind of god descending to earth?" After En Nuan finished speaking, he couldn't help laughing. Gods must not have a heartbeat, so Lu Chang'an must not be a god. What En Nuan needs is a boyfriend who will accompany her to live in the mortal world and experience the ups and downs, pains and joys in the world of mortals, not a fairy who may ride on a dragon and leave at any time. "I'm not a god." Lu Chang'an smiled and shook his head. "Then what are you?" En Nuan raised her head, her eyes suddenly startled. If she asked this question, no, she is too serious. Even if Lu Chang'an has many secrets, is it possible that he can really subvert him? Lack of understanding of the world? Compared to gods, I think I am closer to monsters. Goblins. Something like that. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said, that's not right. Anyway, he is not a simple human being. I don't care who you are. En Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an tightly and smiled sweetly. "Even if you are really a monster, I will defeat Ultraman and protect you." Okay. Lu Chang'an felt soft in his heart. He felt safe when he hugged her, and warm when he was with her. It was peaceful and warm. Today's recommended book, The First Sequence, author, Talking Elbow. Introduction: this time is a new story. After the catastrophe for the rest of my life, I finally see the light.